Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Red Hat webinar. Before we get started with today's presentation, there are a few items to quickly mention. You should see a taskbar at the bottom of the screen. Each icon is assigned to a particular element of today's webinar. If you're not sure what the icon does, hover over the icon with your mouse and a box will appear to tell you the function. Also, next to the slides window, you should see a blank Ask a Question box that allows you to type a question. After you type the question, click Submit to send it to our presenters. Feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar, and our presenters will address as many as possible following the presentation. You can submit any technical questions related to the webinar platform here. Please close down other browser windows or applications that might be splitting your bandwidth, including VPNs, as these might interfere with the audio or video stream. If you experience any connectivity issues, please refresh your browser. Today's session is being recorded, and all registrants will receive an email within 1 to 2 days of the event with a link to view this presentation on demand. Now I'm going to hand it over to today's first speaker so we can get started with the presentation.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. My name is Alfredo Quiroga, and today we're going to be chatting very quickly in 10 minutes about how automation is helping financial services adapt to change. Talk about changes. We're living through unprecedented times. COVID-19 has really changed the way that businesses operate and the way in which we are transforming operationally how companies behave. I am delighted today to have with me two of the most amazing automation experts that I had the opportunity to work with. I have Lee Rich and I also have Frank Wood, both with very fancy titles, but in reality, two very in the trenches guys that day to day, day in, day out, they work with customers, not just on the hypothetical side of the house, but really just helping customers solve financial and complex issues in the area of automation. Frank, welcome. Lee, welcome. Like I said, I'm delighted to have you guys with us this little break that we're taking, this little coffee break. I do have some questions that we're going to be asking both Frank and Lee. And without further ado, I'm going to put the first one out there. This is something that's been in the back of my mind, especially like I mentioned before, given what we're going through right now, and given all the challenges that a lot of the customers that you guys work with on a regular basis, and given that financial banks are known for having a lot of custom software, not only do they have custom software, they also have very regulated and constrained environments. How do you guys see customers adopting new technologies, automation technologies, specifically such as Ansible? How do you guys see that adoption? How do you guys see customers adopting in this time that we're going through right now?
That's a great question, Alfredo. What we're seeing today is that during these uncertain times have created new challenges for all organizations. So the companies we're working with are having to find new ways of working, and their existing resources are strained. And so many of them are leveraging automation, and Ansible in particular, to help them address this quickly evolving environment. They're using Ansible to do things like increasing capacity to meet the demands of remote working. They're using Ansible to reconfigure and repurpose existing resources from business continuity or DR sites. They're using automation to ensure compliance and security for all of their IT resources while their people are working remotely and at home. They're increasing the enablement of things like IT self-service capabilities and automating auditing and reporting facilities.
Thank you.
And no, it's a great point, Alfredo. And one of the powers and uniqueness of Ansible, why it's kind of grown in popularity in the financial sector is, as you mentioned, there's a great deal of custom software out there, right? But because Ansible as a technology is agentless, we see that a lot of our customers are actually extending it and creating automation for some of their homegrown systems. As a company, Red Hat and Ansible, we've always been more open. So whereas there's a large ecosystem today of technologies like from VMware, Cisco, Microsoft that are already in the Ansible community today, the financial sector, they have the capability to extend Ansible as a technology as well for some of their existing systems, which many have done around the use cases that Lee mentioned.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate that answer, and it's interesting that you both have very similar points of view in that area. I'm certainly not in my 20s anymore, and I remember the days where I was hacking away, writing Bash and shell scripts and all kinds of different things. So certainly the idea of automation in the space of technology is not a new concept. That being said, though, with that being said, one thing that I personally always find interesting is in terms of operationally and organizationally changing processes, and culturally, more importantly, changing culturally different groups within one company is something that I've personally ran into a lot of different challenges and issues. And I was going to ask you both if you've seen, for example, specifically in that space, not just in the automation space, because like I just mentioned, we've had tools before and we've had a number of different things, but I don't think we ever really have something that can help companies and organizations work a little better through the cultural changes and creating more of a homogeneous environment for how to tackle those challenges. I was wondering if you guys had an idea or can provide a little bit of color around how Ansible can help companies and, more importantly, groups in the area of organizational processes and cultural changes within the company itself.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is Ansible is really leading the charge for that cultural shift. Previously, banking culture used to reward people for what they created and what they owned. So they protected what they created. They weren't used to sharing. But attitudes are now changing, and banks are now starting to see the value of collaboration and sharing. And Ansible really is breaking down those silos of automation and showing people what they can create when they start not automating only their own areas of expertise, but when they start sharing that automation throughout the bank with other groups, so that people aren't having to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, no, Lee brings up a great point. The scale that the financial sector operates on, right? We're talking about tens of thousands of developers, hundreds of thousands of servers. You cannot combine everybody in a single DevOps or cloud group, right? So the name of the game is really around collaboration. And if you look at use cases like weekend maintenance activities, right? Typically the bottleneck is around the manual handover between the different groups. If there's a dependency on the database side, a dependency on the networking side. And what Ansible really offers is it offers a universal language, right? A universal syntax that all these different demographics can understand. And once you have a common language, then if you have a platform, you have a common platform to share that collaboration. So the Ansible automation platform really gives you that repository to collaborate and share that automation across your organization.
Awesome. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So instead of just having silos, people can actually now start creating and collaborating. And I'm assuming as part of that, Ansible provides the ability to also develop certain little pieces, and then that can be incorporated and used by a different team, and they can build upon that foundational knowledge as well. Which brings me to something that also always is in the back of my mind, especially with any company is going to have this, but financial institutions, they've invested lots and lots of millions of dollars in technology, in software. And not only do they invest in those technologies, they also invest in the expertise and the skill sets to be able to manage those environments with all the tooling for the entire workforce that they need to operate as a business. How do you guys see Ansible helping, or how does Ansible specifically in the automation space, how do you guys see that fitting into those existing ecosystems within the FSI vertical financial services? Do you think that there are some areas of overlap? Do you think that Ansible complements some of it? Does it fit well, or do you see it as a major undertaking to be able to incorporate Ansible into these very massive ecosystems that already exist within these financial institutions?
So Ansible pretty much complements everything. the most important part of a successful automation strategy is basically the people. Most people focus on the technology and its features and how they can take advantage of those features. But the most successful automation strategies I've seen focuses on the people and how they can get their people to use the technology in the most efficient, concerted, and safest way. Uh, People are the efficiency multipliers, basically. And this is not a product that Red Hat sells, but it's something that we can help guide customers with so that whatever solution they use, they can be successful with it.
Yeah, it's a great question, Alfredo, and I think it's a difficult challenge, as you mentioned, right? Because there are companies that have made significant investments in some of the legacy technologies like Blade Logics. We've seen a lot of homegrown automation, right? And what Ansible is really designed to do is it's designed to be a people multiplier, like Lee said, right? So oftentimes, depending on the use case, we are the glue that is in between different automations, right? Because a lot of these existing tools that are there today in systems, they're often siloed tools. They're not providing that end-to-end automation or orchestration across these different technologies or groups. So, Ansible, we really try to take a larger picture at the automated enterprise, not just within that specific group, because our goal at the end of the day is to connect everybody, not just the infrastructure side, but infrastructure, engineering, application developers, operations, and more, right, across the entire company.
Thank you so much, both Frank and Lee. I can certainly talk to you guys for hours about this. I'm pretty sure we're going to have lots of people interested in following up. With that, we'll close it up. Again, thank you, and for everybody else anybody that joined us, thank you for joining us. And let's go ahead and jump into some Q&A. Thank you very much. Appreciate it all. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Alfredo had a drop due to an issue, but Lee and I are actually here to answer your questions. And just to jump right in, Lee, I think somebody asked good questions when you were talking about how enterprises are using Ansible today. Min actually specifically asked, how do you balance capacity management with rapid prototyping and automation? There are traditional concerns around storage and compute.
Yeah, that's a good question. And the answer to that is that automation covers both use cases. So if a customer uses automation and writes their playbooks to provision and configure their compute and storage, then they can manually tweak those playbooks to serve rapid prototyping, and then use those same playbooks to to provide capacity and to spin up as many of those instances or storage LUNs as they like.
No, that's great. Just to add in another question, I think Angus asked the question, what takes second place to Ansible and automation? Follow up, what sets Ansible apart other than the familiarity? I think if I understand your questions correctly, besides what makes Ansible unique, besides the simplicity or the familiarity for folks to adopt the syntax, I would say really the ecosystem, right? If you look at the technologies most enterprises have today, there's heavy investments with some of the key players from Cisco, EMC, Amazon, Microsoft, right? Ansible has probably one of the largest ecosystems in the world today, where there's already off-the-shelf Ansible content collections that you can use. And I think Red Hat as a company, we've shown that we can really create this vendor-neutral ecosystem. So the power of Ansible is really not just the simplicity, but really the power of the ecosystem and all the partners. I think we have time for one more question, and then we have to wrap it up. Just wanting to keep it simple as a coffee break. Lee, I think this is a great question from John. Based on your experience, is it better to put Ansible in the hands of many developers or go with the more consolidated, centralized team? What do you see from an organizational model?
Ansible was designed to be simple, and it was designed to be used by everyone within an organization. I think of Ansible as kind of like the Wikipedia of automation, where you have a lot of people throughout the organization contributing to automation and building off one another, basically. And that's where we've seen the most success, is not not having a small set of automation experts, but deploying Ansible in an organization where everyone is using automation. And that's the whole philosophy and the way Ansible was designed from the ground up.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think really just to echo you, Lee. I mean, Ansible was really designed to democratize automation, right? It's there isn't a dedicated automation engineer. Everyone's job, whether they're a DBA, a server administrator, a software release engineer, everyone's job is to be that automation engineer. So, but great. It looks like we're out of time. I hope everybody enjoyed this short coffee break. Thank you so much for attending. If you're attending live, you will see an email with a Starbucks or equivalent gift card just as a thank you. And I hope to see you guys next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.